11 months pregnant, I finally went into labor, my water broke, but my husband locked me, experiencing frequent contractions, in a cold air-conditioned room, forbidding me to give birth. Confused, I endured the pain and pleaded bitterly, only to hear his foster sister, who should have been abroad awaiting labor, complaining endlessly outside the door, "Robert, it's just asking her to wait a bit longer to have the baby, right? Does she really need to fake suffering like this?" And screaming so loudly, "It's just contractions, how bad can it be? I also get cramps during my period, how come I'm not as overly dramatic as she is? If David and I hadn't had trouble getting pregnant, I wouldn't have been willing to let you sleep with her without protection at the last minute. You have no idea how awful it was for me listening from upstairs that night. If you hadn't come up to be with me right after, I definitely wouldn't have been able to sleep. But thankfully her uterus was cooperative enough to get pregnant after that one time, otherwise you'd have had to do it with her a few more times, and I really would have gone crazy." Before I could react, I heard my husband, Robert, chuckle with pleasure. "Emily, seeing your possessiveness over me is still so strong makes me so happy. Don't worry, there will only ever be that one intimate encounter between Sarah and me. From now on, no matter when, I will never take off the condom again. As for now, as long as we keep Sarah locked in the room and delay her delivery time, you'll be able to have the baby exactly on David's birthday, just as you wished. That way, the Davis family won't be able to bully you anymore for not getting pregnant for several years after you married into their family." Only then did I understand why Robert, who had actively proposed being child-free when we got married, had gone crazy and filled me with semen that night 11 months ago, and afterwards advised me to let nature take its course, no NED for birth control. And I finally knew that he hadn't prevented me from going up to the 3rd floor of the mansion because the new renovation formaldehyde levels were too high, but because his foster sister, Emily, who was faking pregnancy and claiming to recover abroad, had been living up there all along. You really do care for me, Robert. It wasn't for nothing that I faked pregnancy and suffered for 11 months. Sarah is really something. Couldn't she have given birth earlier? I almost blew my cover in the middle. Robert sneered, his words full of disdain. Even if David had actually gone looking for you a month ago, I would have found a way to cover for this. Anyway, Sarah was already over 9 months pregnant then, the baby was fully developed. Delivering by C-section half a month early wouldn't have caused any problems. If David hadn't been tied up with company matters later, the baby would have been born a month and a half ago by now. Those words made me feel as if I'd fallen into an ice cellar. I suddenly remembered a month ago, when Robert suddenly dragged me to the hospital in a panic. I asked him why, but he remained silent. After he ran several red lights, he pressed my hand onto the head of obstetrics' desk. "Give her a shot." I asked nervously what kind of shot, and he just gave me a cool glance. "An induction shot." I was a little bewildered, looking at him, not understanding. At that time, it was clearly still half a month before my due date. Although I didn't understand why Robert wanted the doctor to arrange for labor induction for me, I thought about it for a moment and assumed he was just impatient to see the baby born. But the next second, a call came in. Robert turned and went outside to take it. When he came back, he looked relieved. He held my belly and led me out of the hospital again. I asked him, "Don't you want to see the baby born sooner?" Robert froze for a moment, immediately becoming awkward. "I got the date wrong. I thought your due date had passed, but the baby inside wasn't showing any signs, and I was worried something might be wrong. That's why I thought about asking the doctor to arrange for labor induction." I found it strange, but I was still amused by his muddled appearance. I never imagined the real reason was. A wave of sorrow rose from the bottom of my heart. The emotional fluctuations made the already frequent contractions become more severe and violent. I couldn't help but cry out. My subconscious told me that the most important thing right now was to get Robert to take me to the hospital immediately for delivery, otherwise I would die of pain in this room, and the baby in my belly would suffocate from a delayed birth. I pounded on the door, my voice strained. "Robert, I'm in labor. You have to take me to the hospital first, or the baby and I will be in danger." The conversation outside the door stopped abruptly. As footsteps approached, hope ignited in my heart. "Robert, my stomach hurts so much, Please open the door and take me to the hospital. The person outside used a key to turn the doorknob, and then Robert walked in. He bent down. I breathed a sigh of relief, reaching out to him through the intense pain, and leaning my whole body towards him. But the next moment, I stumbled, my body hitting the floor with full force. The pain made me gasp. Robert watched the scene calmly. He didn't react as he usually would, panicking whenever I had a headache or a fever. I clenched my fists tightly, my heart sinking. What do you mean? Robert stepped back. He took the air conditioner remote and pressed it a few times. The room temperature dropped instantly. He looked at me, all the previous tenderness gone from his eyes. Sarah, I had someone check. She said this baby must be born precisely at 8 p.m. tonight. That way the baby will be strong and healthy. You want our baby to be healthy, don't you? Be good, bear with it a little longer. I'll you to the hospital tonight and arrange for a natural birth. After speaking, he exited the room without hesitation and locked the door from the outside again. Realizing what was happening, I painfully crawled to the door and pounded on it again, shouting for help. Robert, no! I have to go to the hospital to give birth right now. Please let me out. I'm in so much pain, I can't bear it for that long. I'll die from the pain. I had thought my pleading might work, but his and his foster sister's subsequent words completely shattered my last shred of hope for him. Ugh, she's screaming so loud, the soundproofing isn't working. So annoying. Hiding on the third floor of this mansion to avoid the Davis family and faking pregnancy for 10 months has been boring enough, and now I have to listen to her scream for hours? Even more boring. Robert, can you take me out for a walk? I urgently stopped them, my face smeared with snot and tears. Robert, I'm about to give birth. Please open the door first, okay? I'm begging you, the baby and I really can't wait that long. But he ignored me. I heard him pick up the car keys from the table. Okay, you've been wanting steak, haven't you? Let's go. I'll take you now. The main gate clicked shut, sealing my suffering within the mansion. All sorts of complex emotions flooded my heart at once, half heart-wrenching pain, half complete despair. I weakly lowered my hands, no longer pounding on the door. The intense contraction pain made me curl up. My breathing became increasingly difficult, and even my consciousness began to blur. Suddenly, I felt a dampness in my lower body. After the warm fluid, the baby in my belly started dropping down in waves. My whole body was soaked with sweat. The pounding and pleading just now had drained most of my strength. Now, even if I wanted to push, I felt somewhat powerless. A huge sense of fear enveloped me. I bit down hard on my tongue to regain a shred of consciousness. Right. Call for help. I tilted my head to look at the sofa not far away. This morning, when Robert brought me in for breakfast, he casually tossed his jacket onto the sofa. Although I wasn't sure if his phone was left in the jacket pocket, now, with even a sliver of hope to save myself and the baby, I had to try. I struggled to prop up my upper body, leaning weakly against the door frame. Below me, bloody fluid had soaked a large area. The smell of bloody fluid filled my nostrils. I couldn't help but turn my head and dry heave repeatedly. It wasn't until I had thrown up all the porridge/oatmeal I had eaten that morning that the dizzy, lightheaded feeling lessened slightly. After steadying my breathing, I tried to stand up on my own, but I couldn't. My hands found nothing to hold onto, nothing to support me in standing up alone. Frustration and helplessness made me cry uncontrollably, but with the crying, my stomach hurt even more intensely. The baby in my belly seemed to be stimulated, not only dropping down constantly but also discharging more bloody fluid. At the same time, the baby kicked my belly here and there, stretching it so much it felt like it was about to rupture. I raised my hand to wipe away my tears and kept trying to calm myself down. After steadying my breathing again, I slowly lay down on my side and crawled towards the sofa, trying my best not to irritate my belly. Finally, I reached out and pulled down the black jacket. My hands trembling, I fumbled inside both side pockets of the jacket. Suddenly, I felt something cold in the inner breast pocket. I quickly pulled the object out. It was a black phone I had never seen before. Judging by the model, it was a smartphone from several years ago. The phone was password protected, but the unlock code wasn't one of Robert's usual ones. I knew there must be some unknown secrets inside the phone, but at this moment, I had no time to worry about that. Thankfully, this old phone still had a SIM card inserted and could make emergency calls. Just as the call connected, I heard someone returning and opening the door. Remembering what Robert and Emily had said, I quickly hung up the call, swiftly composed a rescue message, and sent it out. Then I immediately hid the phone under the sofa cushion. After doing all this, my vision was black, and I felt ready to faint at any moment. The person who came back was Emily. She was humming a little tune, seemingly in a very good mood. She even deliberately knocked on the door and called out to me as she passed by in her high heels. "Hey, still alive?" I narrowed my aching eyes and responded weakly, pleading with her out of instinct. "Emily, can you let me out? I really can't hold on until 8 p.m. My water has broken, and if I don't get to the hospital to give birth, the baby will suffocate to death." Emily's usual kindness was gone. She clicked her tongue in displeasure. "Who are you kidding? You've been pregnant for 11 months and haven't given birth, and now you're suddenly in critical labor? Humph, besides, why would I let you out? Sarah, let me tell you. If this baby isn't born precisely at 8 p.m. tonight, I won't let you off the hook. Robert won't either." Suddenly, she seemed to think of something amusing. "Sarah, you've been struggling for so long, are you thirsty? Do you want some water? Why don't you beg me? Maybe if I'm in a good mood, I'll give you a glass of water." I swallowed, my throat burning, belatedly realizing my lips were cracked and dry. Closing my eyes, I begged her in a hoarse voice. "Please, I'm begging you." Emily laughed. She was very happy. Soon after, a stream of water flowed in from under the door. Emily released the crystal glass in her hand and stood up disdainfully. "Oh, right, I just remembered. I didn't bring the room key back with me when I returned, so sorry. If you want water, you'll have to crawl on the floor and lick it up yourself." I tremble. Ed with rage. My breathing, which I had just managed to steady, instantly became erratic. The pain of the baby dropping in my belly intensified, hurting so much that I couldn't help but cry out. Hearing me scream, Emily outside the door frowned impatiently. "Why are you screaming so loud? Can't take it already? It's just asking you to lick water like a dog, isn't it? Anyway, Sarah, you've been following Robert around like a lickspittle. What's there to get so worked up about? If you get this worked up, what if it affects the baby inside? Robert promised long ago that he'd give the baby to me to raise as my own once it's born." My heart instantly tightened. I wanted to say something, I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. Hearing that I had fallen silent, Emily let out a triumphant laugh. "You don't actually think you married Robert because you were in love, do you? Truth is, if the Roberts family hadn't been pressuring him so much, Robert wouldn't have gotten married at all. He would have stayed single and grown old with me. But even now that he's married, it's the same. So, Sarah, you are nothing to Robert." That last sentence echoed repeatedly in my mind. In a blur, I seemed to see Robert, who had shown interest in me 5 years ago, standing there. His originally gentle face suddenly turned cold, and the sweet words on his lips changed tune, repeating endlessly, "Sarah, you mean nothing to me." The next moment, he vanished, his voice replaced by a baby's. The little baby cried nonstop, pleading, "Mommy, Mommy save me, Mommy." Before Emily left, I heard her answer her phone. Robert's voice on the other end of the line was very gentle. "Emily, did you get the condom? Oh, I told you just buy a box outside. Why bother coming back to get it? After tonight, I'll have to give you back to David. Emily, I really wish I could keep you by my side forever, but alas." Alas, what? Alas, their identities didn't allow it, so they had to use me as a shield. To cover up their secret relationship? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. The most important thing now was to get myself and the baby out safely. Taking the phone from under the sofa cushion, I dialed for help again. The operator gently comforted me. "Don't worry, the hospital has dispatched an ambulance, and it's on its way to the gated community." Please stay conscious, and it's best if you can find something to distract yourself. After hanging up, I followed the emergency instructions the operator gave me, constantly adjusting my breathing and posture. I don't know if the method worked, but after going through the steps, my stomach really didn't hurt as much, and I didn't feel as exhausted. To distract myself, I focused my gaze on the old phone in my hand. After a moment of hesitation, I typed a string of numbers into the lock screen password field without hesitation. Sure enough, the phone unlocked. Looking at the intimate photo of a man and a woman pressed close together on the phone's screensaver, I smiled bitterly. Besides the photo album, there was only one messaging app on the phone. I tapped on it and scrolled through casually. Sure enough, everything was related to Emily. No wonder even the lock screen password was Emily's birthday. Robert. I closed my eyes, forcing back the tears welling up. Before I could even feel sad, I noticed the baby in my belly suddenly stopped moving. Thankfully, the ambulance had already arrived outside the mansion. The previous operator called me on a private phone to ask for the keypad lock code at the entrance of the mansion's front yard. I was confused. Keypad lock? There's no keypad lock at the mansion's front yard, only the main gate of the mansion has a keypad lock. I suddenly stopped speaking. In an instant, I understood the purpose of this keypad lock. Robert, I really regret believing you truly wanted to marry me back then. I clenched my teeth and called Robert. One call, two calls, the phone remained unanswered. After countless attempts, the call finally connected. Robert was breathing heavily, furious. Sarah? Where did you find this phone? You unlocked it? What did you see? Who the hell gave you permission to rummage through my things? Are you tired of living? Realizing what he was doing, I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Yes, I'm tired of living. You locked me alone in the mansion, weren't you just afraid that the baby and I would survive today? After some static, the sound of wind came through the receiver. Robert took a drag of his cigarette, his tone somewhat helpless. Sarah, you and the baby will be fine. Why don't you understand? The low temperature in the air-conditioned room can delay your delivery time. As long as you don't do anything stupid and cause trouble, you and the baby can hold out until 8 p.m. Be good. I have something important to do right now. I promise I'll take you to the hospital before 8 p.m., okay? With that, he was about to hang up. I quickly stopped him, my voice softening, pleading again. Wait! Robert, tell me the front yard code, okay? Robert was very smart. He immediately guessed that I had used this phone to call for help. His tone instantly turned ice cold. Sarah, I tried to talk sense into you, but you just won't listen, will you? You still want to have this baby before 8 o'clock, you just have to go against me. You want to know the front yard code? Ha! Dream on! Forget the front yard code, no one will know even the mansion code before I get back. I'll have someone tell the hospital that you reported a false rescue information. From now on, you just stay in the room obediently and don't do anything else. And don't try to call or message anyone. I'll arrange for someone to activate the mansion's signal jammer. The call ended. When I tried to call back, it was turned off. He had blocked me. I closed my eyes in despair and used the last of my strength. H to send a message to the operator. Break the lock. Seeing the message successfully sent after a few seconds of circling, I finally felt relieved and fainted. When I woke up again, I was in the hospital. The doctor regretfully told me, I'm sorry, the baby was stillborn. He stayed in the womb for too long and had suffocated to death some time ago. We did our best. Looking at my flat abdomen, I belatedly realized that the easing of the pain at that time wasn't because the emergency method had worked, but because the baby couldn't hold on any longer. I didn't know whether to cry or laugh. In the end, I just tremblingly touched the familiar birthmark on the baby's arm. I'm sorry, baby. I still couldn't save you. Pulling my hand back, I signed the post-surgery form. Afterward, I specifically asked someone to take a few photos of the baby's body for me. With 2 hours left until 8 p.m., I placed the close-up photo of the birthmark on top of the death certificate and had a courier deliver it. Meanwhile, Robert, who had finished with Emily, drove back to the mansion. As his car reached the front yard, he noticed the smashed keypad lock in the wide-open mansion door. Emily exclaimed in alarm, "Robert, nothing bad happened, did it?" Robert quickly parked the car and walked into the mansion. As soon as he entered, he smelled a strong scent of bloody fluid. His face changed, and he rushed towards the air-conditioned room where the entire door had been removed. "Sarah!" Just then, the courier also arrived at the mansion. "Hello, are you Mr. Roberts? Ms. Miller sent something for me to deliver. Please sign for it." Robert frowned and tore open the box tape. What met his eyes was a familiar photo of a birthmark. He instinctively touched the birthmark on his own arm. The next second, he looked at the death certificate pressed beneath the photo in disbelief. Signature, Sarah's signature time, 4:06 p.m. Robert froze in place, his long fingers constantly flipping through the photos of the baby's body. How could? He stammered, unable to say a complete sentence for a long time. Emily was confused, only finding the strong smell of bloody fluid in the room nauseating. She disdainfully avoided the bloody footprints, walking over in her expensive limited edition skirt and high heels. There were still a few suggestive hickeys/marks faintly visible on her ankle. "Robert? What's wrong? What is it?" She took the photos from Robert's hand and screamed in shock. "Ah! What the hell is this?" She screamed repeatedly, her face pale, and hid in Robert's arms. The photos scattered on the floor with the force of her hand. The baby's body in the photos still had bloodstains, was blue and purple, with closed eyes and lips. Some were stuck to the dried bloodstains on the ground, looking incredibly eerie. But Robert seemed oblivious. He stiffly pushed Emily away, squatted down, and picked up the photos one by one, looking at them repeatedly. "The baby is dead." After a long while, he finally looked up, staring at Emily in confusion. Emily was already startled by the photos, and combined with the dim light in the mansion, being stared at by Robert like that sent a chill down her spine. She began trembling, and her tone became increasingly impatient. Perhaps trying to bolster her courage, her voice rose extremely high, even becoming sharp and grating. "Dead is dead. Why come back to scare me even when it's dead? Even if it's dead, it deserves to go to hell." Robert flinched, his confused eyes instantly turning disbelieving. He couldn't believe his seemingly innocent and kind foster sister could say something so vicious. He stared intently at Emily, as if he wouldn't rest until he saw a different emotion on her face. "Emily! Sarah's and my baby is dead. Suffocated to death in the womb." Emily was scared by his terrifying gaze and realized her loss of composure. Her voice trembled. "I know, Robert, I was just scared by these photos, that's why I lost it." She cautiously examined Robert's face. "Sarah is really something too. The baby was suffocating to death in the womb and she didn't even call us for help. She had to wait until the baby died before sending someone to bring the baby's body for us to see." Suddenly, she paused, her tone becoming anxious. "Robert, something's wrong. The baby is dead. What am I going to tell David? I just texted him on the way back saying the natural birth went smoothly. Robert, what do I do? Please help me figure something out." Just then, Emily's husband, David, called to ask about the baby, saying he had already bought a plane ticket and was coming abroad to see her and the baby. Emily stammered for a long time, finally hanging up using the excuse of being weak after childbirth. She grabbed Robert's sleeve, her voice tinged with tears. "Robert! David said he's coming to see me. Please help me think of something. Didn't you say you would help me keep up the lie until the very end?" Only then did Robert seem to snap out of his daze. With a complex expression, he made a call. "Help me check David's flight tonight. Find a way to delay him before he gets on the plane. Also, find out where Sarah is now." The assistant on the other end, hearing his boss's icy tone, didn't dare to waste a moment and quickly got up to investigate. Seeing Robert act, Emily finally breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, a chill crept up her back again. She hugged herself, fearfully moving closer to Robert. "Robert, I'm scared. Can you turn on the lights?" Robert did as she asked. He also closed the door casually. For the next 2 hours, he and Emily sat silently on the sofa, neither of them speaking. Emily wanted to speak but didn't dare. Robert remained immersed in repeatedly looking at the baby's body photos. The oppressive atmosphere was only broken when the assistant called, panting, "Mr. Roberts, Mr. Davis has been successfully intercepted outside the airport. His documents are missing and he needs to get them reissued, but I estimate he'll be able to go abroad again in half an hour at most. As for the madam, I'm sorry, Mr. Roberts, I only found that the madam was discharged from downtown hospital after 6 p.m. As for where she went after being discharged, I have no information." Robert's heart immediately sank. Even his voice carried a hint of coldness and fear. "Keep looking until you find her whereabouts." Yes. The call ended. Before Robert could even catch his breath, Emily was pacing back and forth frantically. "Robert, what do we do? David will still come abroad to see me in half an hour, but I'm in the country. And now the only child I could rightfully claim is dead. How can I keep this hidden any longer?" She was almost going crazy with anger. Ignoring Robert's expression, she only focused on smashing things to vent her anxiety. "It's all Sarah's fault, that bitch. She can't even give birth to a healthy baby. You shouldn't have gotten her pregnant in the first place, Robert. Getting her pregnant was worse than getting a dog pregnant, at least a dog wouldn't give birth to a dead person." It wasn't until she had smashed everything she could get her hands on that Emily realized how low the pressure was in the living room. She looked at Robert's grim expression, losing her nerve for the first time. "Robert, I'm sorry. I just went crazy with anger and said all those terrible things. I'm just afraid David will divorce me when he finds out the truth, so," she explained frantically, but she overlooked the coldness in Robert's eyes. Robert interrupted her, his voice indifferent, betraying no emotion. "Emily, Sarah's and my baby is dead. It was our fault for locking them mother and child in the room." Emily was almost going crazy, but she could only force herself to continue the conversation. "I know, Robert, I'm also very sad that the baby died, but we can't keep dwelling on the sadness, can we? Look at me. My lie is about to be exposed by David, and he'll definitely divorce me. Please, Robert, help me think of something." She finished shouting, her chest rising and falling rapidly. But Robert remained unmoved. For the first time, he ignored the emotions of the foster sister he held so dear. His mind kept replaying my pleading face from this morning. The birthmark on the baby's arm in the photo seemed to tell him that he was wrong, terribly wrong. How could he plot against his own wife, make her pregnant, and unilaterally decide to agree to his foster sister's request to take the baby to raise after Sarah gave birth, all for the sake of a foster sister who was already another man's wife? Not only that, but for Emily's wish to have the baby by 8 p.m., he even locked Sarah, who was about to give birth, in an air-conditioned room to prevent her from delivering smoothly. Ignoring my pleas, he took Emily out for a candlelight dinner, and even ridiculously spent a night of passion in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. How could he have kissed Emily's lips so impulsively back then? Thinking of this, Robert was filled with regret. He ignored the frantic Emily and left the house alone. Before leaving, he instructed his assistant to buy Emily a plane ticket and threw a bank card at her. "I'll arrange for someone to get you abroad as quickly as possible. As for everything else, you'll have to figure it out yourself. This is all I can do to help you. And, no matter what happened between you and me over these 11 months, from today onwards, it's over. From now on, we are just ordinary siblings. Remember that?" Emily looked at Robert in disbelief. She wanted to say something else, but Robert had already driven away. Robert visited the Miller family home late at night but was turned away. The next day, when Mr. Miller and Mrs. Miller woke up, they saw Rob. ERT standing downstairs, cigarette butts scattered everywhere. He wanted to know Sarah's whereabouts, but how could that be possible? Mr. Miller and Mrs. Miller had always doted on Sarah, so how could they allow Robert to see her again after he had hurt her? But Robert was persistent. As long as Mr. Miller and Mrs. Miller didn't tell him Sarah's whereabouts, he wouldn't leave the Miller family home. Even his daily food and drink were delivered to the Miller family home entrance by Mrs. Roberts's assistant. However, the consecutive days of sleep deprivation eventually took their toll, and Robert couldn't hold on, ending up in the hospital. When I heard these news, I was lying on Chris's lap enjoying his massage. He was the adopted son of the Miller family. As early as 5 years ago, after I married Robert, my parents handed over the entire Miller family business to him to manage. Now that I had left Robert and returned, he quickly handed back control of the Miller family business and took me out to relax and recuperate, also stating that he had started his own business and had already achieved some success. I wasn't unaware of the implications of his words. It was just that I hadn't finalized the divorce with Robert yet and couldn't give Chris a formal relationship status for the time being. But he didn't seem to mind at all. As long as Sarah is by my side, I am happy. I smiled, reaching out to rub his head, just like I had countless times when he was little. The only change was that the little tag-along from childhood had grown into a very charming adult man, especially with that sense of youthfulness about him. This was something Robert lacked, and it was what I cherished after leaving Robert. I hesitated for a moment, about to tell Chris my plans, when an angry roar interrupted my thoughts. I got up from Chris's lap and turned to face Robert's enraged face. "Sarah! It's improper for men and women to be so close, especially since you're not even real siblings. Don't you know the word propriety?" Chris's face turned cold as he stood in front of me. His previously relaxed mood instantly became gloomy, and my expression wasn't good either. "However, Chris and I are together, it's not nearly as intimate as you and Emily are, so you're in no position to lecture." I took Chris's arm and was about to leave, but Robert wouldn't let me. He looked at me with hurt eyes, a stubbornness about him. "Sarah, you can't do this to me. I know what I did before was ridiculous, but you should at least give me a chance to explain, shouldn't you? We've been married for 5 years, together for so long, Before he could finish, I interrupted him sharply. "We've been married for 5 years, but when the baby and I were in critical condition, you didn't leave us a way out, did you?" I suppressed my anger, raising a hand to wipe away the tears from my eyes. "Robert, do you remember what you were doing when the ambulance was waiting for the door code at the entrance of the mansion's front yard?" Robert's face turned pale, his eyes pleading. "Sarah, don't say it, please." I sneered, mercilessly revealing the truth. "You were eagerly sleeping with Emily." At this, Robert staggered back 2 steps. He wanted to explain, but no words came out of his mouth. "You say Chris and I shouldn't be so close, but what about you? What do you and Emily consider yourselves?" Chris looked at him mockingly, his eyes full of disgust. "As soon as I brought Sarah back to the Miller family home that day, I voluntarily dissolved the adoption with the Miller family and returned everything they had given me. Sarah and I are completely innocent. It's your mind that's filthy. Sarah isn't like Emily. Sarah isn't on the same path as you. Only people with corrupt morals like you and Emily would engage in an incestuous relationship between siblings." Every word choked Robert, making it hard for him to breathe. He looked at me pleadingly, hoping I would say something for him. But I didn't. Just as he hadn't spared my pleas a single glance that day. "Robert, I looked at you like that too that day, but what about you? Do you remember how you treated me?" Robert's breathing instantly quickened, and his body began trembling. I'm sorry, Sarah, I was foolish. Everything from before, it was all my ridiculousness, I was utterly ridiculous to do that, to treat you like that. I know I was wrong. Sarah, please don't say these things in front of outsiders, okay? Come home with me, can we talk privately?" He reached out his hand, his eyes overflowing with pleading. I scoffed. Dodging his hand, I leaned up and kissed Chris on the cheek. "Chris isn't an outsider. He's my fiancé, whom I'm about to get engaged to. As for you..." I bent down, took a divorce agreement from a nearby drawer, and threw it in front of him. "Since you're here, let's finish this last thing today. Sign it, and we'll get the divorce certificate in a month. From now on, whatever Robert does, has nothing to do with Sarah." Robert panicked. He awkwardly bent down and picked up the divorce agreement from the floor, looking at it repeatedly 3 times or more in disbelief. Just like that day when he looked at the baby's corpse photos, he looked completely lost. You've already decided? You want to divorce me? I didn't hesitate, nodding. Yes, I hope you'll cooperate and finalize the divorce with me as soon as possible. Right now, I don't want to have anything to do with you for even a second longer, and I don't want to see you again. Robert's heart sank. It felt as though his entire heart was being sliced open piece by piece. Sarah, I was terribly wrong about what happened before. Can you? He wanted to ask Sarah if she could give him another chance to make amends. This time, he would do everything he could to compensate her and the baby who had passed away. But seeing Sarah and Chris's hands tightly clasped together the entire time, and the wedding ring that had been thrown away from Sarah's middle finger, he suddenly couldn't say anything at all. Sarah used to care about that ring the most. No matter when, she never took it off. Now, there was only a faint mark on that beautiful, slender finger, no longer the simple band that had once been cherished. He regretted it so much, he really regretted it. If he had known Sarah would slowly grow into his heart later and then be pushed to despair by him, he would have carefully crafted a pair of wedding rings belonging only to him and Sarah when they got married, and he definitely wouldn't have done those foolish things afterward. Robert's hand trembled. Like a walking corpse, he stiffly picked up the pen from the table and scrawled his name in the signature field. He clearly saw me sigh with relief as I took the agreement. He finally knew that I truly didn't want anything to do with him, not even the slightest bit. Capping the pen, he looked up at me, his voice tearful. Our baby. He wanted to ask where the baby was buried, and if it had been given a name. He wanted to say that he had bought a burial plot for the baby and would visit the grave every day in the future. But he couldn't, because Chris coldly interrupted his fantasy. Sarah's baby is buried in a beautiful, scenic place. He doesn't need a father who didn't love him to visit the grave. It's enough that Sarah and I visit him often. Under my approving gaze, Robert turned and left awkwardly. He practically fled, because he knew he had no face to appear before me and prevent me from running towards true happiness. A month later, I successfully obtained the divorce certificate. 6 months later, Chris and I held our wedding as planned. On the wedding day, I heard Emily had returned to the country. After Robert sent her abroad, she had snatched the child of a mentally disabled woman at the airport and escaped. Later, when the police came knocking, her fake pregnancy was exposed to David. David, furious, chose to divorce her. This trip back was to finalize the divorce. Because she was kicked out penniless by her in-laws, Emily wanted to return to the Roberts family to continue her pampered life, but Robert, the current head of Roberts Corp., refused. He forcibly dissolved the Roberts family's adoption of Emily and self-destructively exposed his and Emily's personal experience of adultery and an incestuous relationship between siblings. His and Emily's intimate photos were personally spread across the entire internet by him. Soon, Roberts Corp's stock plummeted. Chris and I acquired Roberts Corp overnight. Robert, due to this incident, when speeding to clear his head, was in a car accident, his legs were crippled, and he became vegetative. The day Roberts Corp officially went bankrupt, Chris and I saw Emily, who had become a beggar, by the roadside. She seemed mentally unstable. She was still wearing a limited edition skirt from a long time ago, but it was incredibly dirty. Something was hanging down from her lower body. It looked like uterine prolapse. The next moment, she saw me sitting in the luxury car and suddenly started laughing maniacally. I closed the window, shutting out the horrible laughter.